with a multiple award-winning author whose works explore intersection of personal and cultural transformation, drawing from philosophy, spirituality, and lived experiences. She challenges audience to examine the inherited narratives shaping both their inner lives and the systems around them. Her forthcoming book, The Essential Ingredient, Remaking Ourselves in a Time of Crisis, calls for radical courage needed to reimagine ourselves and the world. Stop by the lobby after the service for more information about the book, as well as an early preview. With that, I'll pass off to Keri.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. So good to see you here the first Sunday in March. So we somehow made it, and I'm so glad to see you. And as always, I am so honored to be invited to speak here today. And I'd like to start by asking, how are you? But that feels a little bit like a loaded question these days, because we're living in times of crisis and division and challenge. And at the same time, you know, the word crisis is made up of two Japanese symbols. The first represents danger, and the second, something closer to opportunity or turning point. And that is where we sit. That is where we are. And so as much as our bodies are trying to hold both the pain and the suffering and the confusion and the loss and the grief and all of that, our bodies are also seeing connection and collaboration and support and aid on levels we've never seen before for one another. But it's a lot. And it's a lot for a fragile human body to try to hold in our nervous systems and our bodies and our minds, not to mention just the daily pressures of life. And yet you're here, which says so much about your commitment to remaining present and to be here during these times of crisis and change, and to stay conscious, to not check out, to not fall into apathy or despair or hopelessness, but to stay in this journey. And that in itself is so much to celebrate about us all being here. Now, the theme for this month, you may already know, is Be the Change. And the full quote, of course, from Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. But I think that before we can really talk about how to be the change, I think it's important that we just be here. So I'd like to lead us first in a meditation and check in with our bodies and get as much of ourselves and our bodies and our brains in this space as we possibly can. So please find yourself in a comfortable seat and go ahead and close your eyes. And with this meditation, we're not really going to change anything or ask anything to be different. We're simply going to explore what is. And so let's just start down by our feet and just notice your toes if they feel a little clenched or a little tight. Move on up to your ankles and your lower legs. Bring your awareness into your knees and your thighs and the pelvic bowl. Bring your awareness into your lower belly, just noticing. Noticing if the breath feels tight here. Moving up into the lungs, noticing if you can feel the breath here. And then up into the collarbones and the neck and the face And noticing the crown of the head, just bringing awareness. And sliding that awareness now down the back of the body. One vertebrae at a time down the spine. To the sit bones. Down the back of the legs, circling back down to the heels. And now bringing a little bit of intention and awareness into the spaces that you noticed were a little tight, that didn't seem to move quite as easily, where you felt tension or disconnection. And bring your breath right into those spaces. Just breathe right into the tension, and then as you exhale, take that tension right out with you. It's interesting because even just with observation, the body and mind begins to shift into a place of more ease. And so we only need to add a little bit of intention to make shifts and to deepen that. Breathe in and breathe out. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Feeling just that much more centered. So, be the change you wish to see in the world. This is one of my favorite spiritual expressions. It's actually in the introduction to my next book because I love it so much. And it's from Gandhi, as we know. And because it's from Gandhi, it tends to be associated with spiritual spaces, right? You tend to see it in spiritual centers, maybe yoga centers. Maybe you see it on a bumper sticker now and then. But I don't know if it always makes its way into culture entirely. We seem to live in a world where things belong in certain spaces. We compartmentalize things. You know? We don't talk about spirituality when we're talking about politics. We certainly don't bring politics into spirituality. Like, these are kind of the rules, right? We don't bring either into family discussions around the kitchen table. There are certain ways that we have been taught to operate. But to me, it feels disconnected. It feels broken in some ways, that we have to change who we are or how we talk or what we think about, depending on where we are. And I can't help but wonder why that is, first of all. And then what would happen if we allowed a phrase like "be the change you wish to see in the world," and we allowed that to spill into all areas of our lives, into our politics, into our families, into our relationships, into our daily lives? What might be different if we didn't have these sort of boundaries around what and who we can be? And I find that for me, my work has always lived at kind of an intersection. I mean, I'm fascinated in philosophy and psychology and culture and politics and spirituality. I love all of it. And I find sometimes that I have difficulty fitting into certain spaces. Because in order to fit in, I have to cut off certain parts of myself. In order to be welcome in that space, I can only talk about these topics, but not those. And yet I kind of tend to break the rules. I like to talk about all of it, because to me, this is the process of wholeness. This is what all my work is about, is wholeness. Not dividing ourselves up, not dividing our world up into what we can talk about and where. But it does tend to cause trouble on occasion. And I'll tell you a little story right now. So I am pitching a second book to some publicists right now. And I was interviewing one publicist, and she said to me, "I like your book, but I don't think I can represent it because it's too political. So she said, but I'll refer you on to somebody else. I said, okay. So she referred me on to somebody else. And I met with this woman, and she said, I like what you've got here. I'm not sure if I can represent it. It's too spiritual. This is the work, right? This is the work. To me, the book is neither and both and all of the above, because that's who I am. And that's what I want to bring to my work, and that's what I want to bring to my talks here at Lake Harriet. And that's what I want for all of us. So I say my book lives and my work lives at this intersection of philosophy and spirituality and culture. Because they all ask important questions that are fascinating to me. And there's some overlap here, but just go with me. Because philosophy asks, who am I? Right? And I'm fascinated by that question. Who am I? And spirituality, and I would say religion, ask, why am I here? Why am I here? And culture asks, what is our duty to one another? And sometimes it asks and answers that question, because is not politics and the policies and the laws a reflection of what we think our duty is to one another? So all three of these questions are interesting to me, and I think that they all need to be asked together and in sequence, because in a way, here's what they do. They go from the microcosm of me to the macrocosm of us as a collective. Who am I feels very micro to me, microcosm. Who am I? Why am I here feels like, why am I here? A little bit of microcosm with a little bit of macrocosm. And what is my duty to others feels very collective to me. And I love things that move from the micro to the macro, that show me the mirror back and forth, that allow me to take a question and make it bigger, and then take a big question and make it more individual. Today, I want to take each one of these questions one at a time as a reflection for us all, and see if by asking and answering these questions, we can get a little bit closer to answering how we can be the change. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's start with the question, who am I? And I want to, with each of these questions, give you a little bit of silence before I say anything to think on the question, who am I? Did you come up with an answer? A lot of times when we think, who am I? Probably there's a collection of labels and roles and titles, things that you've been to other people, maybe nicknames you've come up with. Perhaps some of you came up with personality characteristics like I'm kind, or I'm generous, or I'm selfless. Perhaps you came up with your Myers-Briggs. Perhaps you came up with your Harry Potter house, all of those quizzes, right, that try to help us figure out, who am I? And it's so interesting because we are all adults here, and by the time we're adults, we tend to have a pretty darn good collection. Oftentimes when I lead workshops, one of my first exercises is to ask this question and then have you write it all down. And I'll tell you, people write for a long time. Because when you start really thinking about all the things you've ever worn, all the labels you've ever worn, all the roles you've ever had since childhood, the nicknames, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that list gets pretty long. And think about it. We're carrying that around with us. It's in your mind, right? It's like baggage in a way. I mean, when we were children, we didn't have so many labels and roles and things, right? Children are fluid. They play in a role, but then they take it off and go have dinner. They're back in their wholeness, right? But we, as we get older, and this is just our conditioning, it's not our fault, we tend to start getting attached to some of our roles. And then we start only allowing ourselves to act as if certain roles, right? We start to compartmentalize ourselves. I mean, I started this talk by saying that society compartmentalizes us, but we do it to ourselves through the labels and roles sometimes as well. I mean, I want so much for us all to feel that freedom again of being a child, where we just play in the roles and the labels and the titles and the characteristics, where they don't define us, where they don't become like mummy wrappings that limit our movement and behavior in the world. So one of the exercises that you do after you write down all of these, and I invite you all to do it over the rest of the weekend, is to work with each one then individually and trace it back. Where did it start? Who gave it to you? For what purpose? Has it served you? Has it limited you? Has it confined you? Has it helped you grow? Did it help you for a while and it does no longer? Is it something you still need? Is it something that you can be without? Can you shed some of these, or can you at least learn to live with them a little more lightly and come back to some of that fluidity? There's a couple ways that we can look at identity. And one is through understanding that we are all of it. That we are all of it. That we are, as human beings, capable of the whole spectrum of human behavior and expression and possibility. I was listening to a podcast over the weekend by some union analysts, and they were discussing this idea that I found very interesting. And that is, whenever we claim something about ourselves, say, for instance, we claim the idea that we are selfless, the opposite must immediately also be created. We are, they said, a collection of opposites. So once we claim that we are selfless, there has to be a selfishness also created within us. Now, if we don't, as human beings, accept the possibility that we could ever be selfish, if we cling to this idea that I am selfless, then that selfishness part of us that does exist will go into the shadow. And I think you could say that we are seeing a lot of shadow being expressed in the world today. Parts of ourselves that have been repressed and ignored and not embodied. But once you accept that you are a human being just like anybody else, and that you have the capacity for selflessness and selfishness, then you're not so shocked when it does show up, right? We're not so afraid of it. We claim it, we own it, we take agency over it, rather than allowing it to work unconsciously in the shadows. This is powerful work. It's wholeness work. And what it does is it allows us to take control of everything between selfish and selfless, and everything in between. I like it too for the idea of, because I consider myself an introvert, very much cling to the idea of myself as an introvert. But I have had to learn that there are parts of me that are very extroverted, that love to be with people. And so I don't cling anymore to the introversion. I allow myself to flow back and forth, knowing that this is a little bit more my home, but I am also capable of being the life of the party once in a while. And you know what? I have also now gained the opportunity to be anything in between. Because that's what happens when we embrace opposites. We get all of it. We get all the potential. That to me is a beautiful way to work with these ideas of who I am. There's another fun way, well, maybe not as fun way, to work with the identities. And this is something I went through personally in 2014. At the time, I had been a yoga teacher for about 15 years, and I'd left that work just because it didn't feel right anymore, didn't fit anymore. But I'd worn that identity, I'd worn it tightly. So taking that off took some work. But I was able to move into becoming an Ayurvedic practitioner, which you may know, Ayurveda is a sister science of yoga. So it made sense, right? It made sense to move from yoga to Ayurveda, made sense to other people, made sense to my brain, it was logical. So it was challenging, but not entirely impossible. But I did Ayurvedic work for about a year, and I said, this isn't it either. And I didn't have something new to go to, and I left that work. And I became, for the first time in my adult life, nothing. Nothing to put on my business card. Nothing to say that I was at a party or a gathering. And it was a very scary time, because while spirituality understands liminal spaces like this, in between spaces, culture does not. Culture wants us to continue this upward and onward movement, this sequence, right, of moving from one thing to another that makes logical sense. This space of being nothing was very hard to accept until I found a spiritual guide who very much understood exactly where I was. And she said, oh, this is opportunity. This is rich. Let's sink deeper into this space. And so she gave me permission to become nothing. Now, of course, I wasn't completely nothing. I was still a wife and a mother and other things, but as close to nothing as I could be, at that time. So I took the opportunity and I did some retreats. I did some international travel, and I presented myself to others without being a teacher, without being a yoga person, without any of those attachments. And I can't tell you how beautiful and freeing those interactions were. I was just me. When we are nothing, when we are unattached to our labels and identities, and you don't have to lose your jobs to practice this. You can just practice by releasing your attachments to your identities, right? And how you present yourself. You can release the attachment. And you can come into these liminal spaces that we are not this anymore, but we're not quite that. No longer this, not yet that. And in liminal spaces, we are closer than ever to the imaginal world. In the imaginal world, that's where we can really, truly dream up a whole new life and a whole new way of being. We can quantum leap from one kind of lifestyle to another entirely, in a way you can't do if you're just taking it linearly. Because what happens is we become first matter, or prima materia, that very essence of who we are. When we unravel all the other stuff, when we get out from under the expectations that we have placed on ourselves, the things that have confined us, we become pure potential. And then something new can emerge. For me, that's when I started thinking about becoming an author. And I don't know that that ever could have happened out of my Ayurvedic work. Maybe it could have. But to me, it felt like I had jumped timelines. So if you're looking for a jump in timeline in your life, this is one way to practice that. Practice coming into a liminal space, releasing attachment to identity, so that when you are asked, who am I, you can say, I am nothing. It's a fascinating practice. Moving on. Why are we here? I'd like to give you a moment again in silence to reflect. Why am I here? We come up with any good answers? Yeah, go.
We're here to improve who we are so that we can go on to a higher level of life, or a planet with a higher level of life, or even to the heaven spheres where we can be promoted also. And this follows in the idea contained in the book, The Red Check.
I love that. Anyone else? Yep. So simple. Yeah? Please?
Can you wait for the not real?
What we see is not real. We are all pure consciousness. I am that I am. So when you say, what are you? I am.
I am. Even simpler. Thank you. Yeah, I always love contemplating on this, and those are such beautiful answers, and thank you. I love thinking about this is what religion and spirituality answer in so many different ways, right? I mean, are we an accident of biology? Were we created with intention? Something in between? Do we have free will, or is our life charted out for us? Are we just following karma? All of those kinds of ideas. And perhaps for some of you, it wasn't as existential. It was more, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? Right? But I have never been one to really like the idea of find your purpose. Because doesn't that sound like ego to you, not soul? Like, you got to find your purpose, and then you got to stick to it. I mean, that's, even the word purpose, I don't know, just something about it, right? And in my first book, I wrote about my life experiences from the voice of my ego and then also from the voice of my soul. And so in doing that, I got to better know the voice of my soul. And my voice, my soul never says things like, hey, Keri, you got to find your purpose. Like, chop, chop. Like, that's my ego that does that. You know what my soul says? This is mine. I don't know about yours. Mine's like, ooh, that was fun. Okay, that was a little embarrassing, but wow. Like the experience, what did we learn there? Oh my gosh, did you see all of that we learned? Like, my soul is kind of playful and really childlike. And my soul has never been one to go, you know, I got in this body and now can we just get out? Like, you know, that whole like enlightenment, samadhi thing. Like, I used to be all in on that stuff. I'm not anymore. Because here's my thing. My soul did not come down into this human body to hurry up and try to get out. I want to be here. That's me. I want to be here. I want to practice embodiment, not enlightenment. I want to experience things. I want to touch things. I want to feel things. Like, this was the stuff that my soul was looking down going, can I try? This sounds like fun. So why am I here? Why am I here? You know, has anyone in here seen the movie Soul? It's a Pixar movie. If you have not seen it, could I suggest it as homework for this particular question? Because, isn't it fantastic? Because is it not a movie about a man who thinks he's got a purpose? And he is trying so hard to fulfill this purpose, and because it's not coming out exactly the way he expects, he's depressed and disappointed in himself, and he's not enjoying his life at all. And he meets a soul who shows him that, my goodness, there can be pleasure just in a slice of pizza, just in the air brushing across your skin. She calls it the spark. I like that. Why are we here? To find our spark. I don't know, Reese Witherspoon said something the other day I kind of liked and thought I'd share. I wonder if anyone saw this. She was mentoring someone, and she said that she told this person, because this person was saying, I can't live up to my dreams and this and that. She said, stop chasing your dreams. Chase your talents. I thought that was kind of nice too. Know who you are and what you're good at. And so who are we and why are we here? We've gotten that far. Next question. What is our duty to one another? Now for this one, and I already know you're not shy because our morning intros were so warm. So for this one, I want to ask you to please look around and perhaps make eye contact with some people. And I know it's a little uncomfortable in the seating arrangement, but just do the best you can. While you consider the question, what is our duty to one another? And I really apologize to the introverts, I really do. But as you make eye contact, what is my duty to this person? What is my duty to this person? This question is so much more alive when we're looking at another human being and asking it than just thinking about it. And thank you for doing that. And I'd like you to take that practice into your week. As you meet people on the street, ask yourself, what is my duty to this person? What is my duty to this person? Would anyone like to share a couple of things that they thought of? Yes.
Here, wait for the mic, please.
To listen.
To listen. You've got something. No?
It's similar to how you answered for the why am I here, which was the same answer I would have given, was to love and receive love. And the thing that kind of brings this home for me, I'm kind of infatuated with near-death experiences, and people, when they're talking to their spirit guides or Jesus or God or whatever, they're never told what their purpose is. Even if they ask, they're not told. But what they're shown is that every act of love ripples out. Mm-hmm. And I think by receiving love, that allows it to ripple out as well. Yeah.
Receiving love isn't easy to do either, is it? How easy to do. It isn't always easy to receive. There's one over here.
This is kind of in line with the idea of love, but I also think of, leaving that person with something that she could use, or something useful, or something cheerful, or that we're making, if the person's obviously not feeling good, to give that person something to smile about. So it may be very practical, it may be spiritual, but to always try to give a gift to the other person. Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
Thank you. One more.
I think just bringing it back to the most basic form, giving, receiving, love, hate, whatever is in front of us, we're here to experience it. And that's what I think. We're just all experiencing. That's all our souls really want, is to experience.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, when I think about this one, I think about another one of my favorite spiritual aphorisms, which is, as above, so below. All is one. As within, so without. What is here is elsewhere, and what is not here is nowhere. 4 variations on the same idea that we are all connected. And that what we do for others, we are doing for ourselves. The other thing I always love to remind us is that we are truly part of the universe. Did you know that we have almost all the same elements in common as stars? We are star stuff. Like, it's the coolest thing ever. We are part of this earth. We are each other. And so when someone else is hurting or suffering or being separated from their family, even if it's not us, it impacts us. You know, when we hurt our finger, our toe doesn't feel it. But if we don't take care of this finger, it could get infected and eventually take over the whole body. We are connected. There is no hierarchy. And what if culture and politics understood this? What if these concepts, all is one, as above, so below, bled into these spaces? Because our culture lives by an entirely different rule set. Culture lives by an us versus them mindset. It uses tactics like othering and dehumanization. Only in the culture would a concept like illegal exist or alien. We know that these things aren't true. We are all one, we are all connected, all united. There is no hierarchy. We have a shared consciousness. There is nothing that you can experience that somebody else has not. Emotions are human. They are part of all of us. There's nobody that is less than or more than. We are all equal and all the same. And we can do work from that level of understanding. You know, there's this idea of murmurations. Murmurations, it's when geese all fly in a pattern together, and there's not one particular leader of the pack. Have you ever seen these? Just movements of birds or animals or flocks that are all moving together as one body, and there seems to be some intuition or intelligence behind the whole body that is moving it to create something beautiful, right? I think we've been seeing that in Minneapolis. I think of the way that we have united and supported each other and the kinds of organizations that are coming up. It's not coming from the top down. It's not coming from hierarchy. It's not coming from leaders. It's coming from the people. It's coming from us, coming together as one body, making extraordinary change. I, for one, am truly inspired by what we're seeing in Minneapolis these last months. And I think it's a model that we can start sharing outward, that maybe more and more. I mean, I think the times of heroes are way behind us. I did a whole talk on that, I think last time I was here, all the reasons that we should no longer seek heroes. I also think we have seen gurus fall in recent weeks and months, and I hope that we have all disillusioned ourselves entirely from the idea of gurus. And so what's left? It's us. It's us. Taking care of each other, loving each other, giving each other gifts, giving each other dignity and respect and humanity. That, to me, feels like our duty to one another. This is the time when we understand who we are and what our purpose is and why we are here. This is when we can reconceive what's possible for our world. We can't do it from our usual mindset, our usual status quo. You can't reconceive the world from what is. You have to come into this space of what is possible. This is the time for us to reconceive, to reimagine, because we have been so disillusioned. And by disillusioned, I mean that we have become free of illusion. Isn't that what's happening right now also? All of the things that we've believed that have been true about our institutions or our systems or people in power are falling apart. And it looks like a crisis, but what is it really? An opportunity. It's an opportunity for us. These are times of crisis, but they are also asking us to shift from duality consciousness to oneness consciousness. Every single one of us right now gets to ask, am I ready to move from a consciousness of separation, where everything is in hierarchy and tiers, to a consciousness of oneness, where we are all in it together? When we're talking about being the change, and we're in a time like we're living in, this is the question. Are you ready to move from a place of duality consciousness to oneness consciousness? Thank you.
Lake Harriet Spiritual Community is funded solely by your donations. In a moment, the ushers will pass out the offering basket. They include a Venmo QR code. You can also give cash or donate on our website, lakeharrietspiritualcommunity.org, and click the Donate Now button. You can also become a regular donor on that website. Another way to support our community is by volunteering. Consider becoming a member. You'll find forms in the rack in the garden room. When volunteer opportunities arise, you might be contacted. You can also talk to Ella or Gary if you'd like to get involved with volunteering.
Everywhere you look, you can write a book on what's going on. Everyone you know's got to reap what they sow, be it right or wrong. Ghettos flood, there's a hole up in the sky. Oil and blood, tell me why, oh why? Terror struck, look at us. This isn't what we planned. You gotta take a stand. Don't forget that pride always goes before the fall. And nobody's free till there's freedom for all. As you sow, so shall you reap. Be the change that you want to see. Oh yeah. Be the change that you want to see. Every now and then, you've gotta bend to the way it is. But be that as it may, it's not the way, just 'cause they say it is. On TV, there's just no reality. All I hear is me, me, me. What they sold, I'm not buying anymore. No, no, no more war. Don't forget that pride always goes before the fall. And nobody's free till there's freedom for all. As you sow, so shall you reap. Be the change that you want to see. Oh yeah. Be the change that you want to see. Yesterday, heard you say that there's nothing you can do. I wonder if you'd feel the same if it was happening to you. Don't forget that pride always goes before the fall.
Please repeat after me to bless the offering. God's perfect love, flowing through me, bless us and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Aho. And this is the part where we do our closing circle. So if we can just create a circle and join hands.
You've been here before, yes? What's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica. So I'm going to put Ella on the spot for a minute because she just had another reason, another way that we should treat each other. I thought maybe you share with the whole group.
Oh, I was just saying I need to be the best person that I can be, you know, because if I'm the best person that I can be, then I've got something to give.
Thank you, everyone, for being so present here today and for being part of the change that is happening in our world. But right now, let's take a moment to come back into our bodies, down into our hearts, and into our breath. Let's take some nice deep breaths in and out through the nostrils and out through the mouth. We have great work ahead of us. But we can do great work when we are united, when we stay connected and remember who we are and why we are here. Thank you so much. Please join me in the lobby. I've got a little sample of my next book I'd love to send you home with before you go. Thank you.